slate cops and robbers are not with the water guns. Yeah, picture me.
We came in to find the resisting intellectual in the classroom, but what we found out was that the intellectual is a dusty-foot philosopher.
So why aren't we going back to being dusty-foot philosophers?
We live in a capitalistic society, and because of that, that already creates the hierarchy. So it's either you're gonna be part of, you're gonna do your best to be part of having some, or not gonna have. And I think so. In some ways, we play a role to just make sure that we have some. The other part is that it's this dusty-foot philosophy thinking that maybe our socialization has led us to, and so then we feel a need to be part of the people. But in what ways are we on the other side and not really with the people? I don't know.
Can you be a dusty-foot philosopher being in the academia? You were saying you can be one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's very rare and it's very hard.
Oh,
If you think of Finkelstein, he is a dusty-foot philosopher,
Yeah.
and the academia does not accept him.
Customer's job, yeah.
Yeah. So then if being a resistant intellectual means being a dusty-foot philosopher, and both cannot go hand in hand considering the reality of the world, then are we resistant intellectuals?
They bought it into the system enough to get their credentials and are tenured, and so now they can talk about the gaps within the system, which one could say that these are resistant intellectuals. I mean, I think that's what Giroux was really talking about. But he's already written books and all of that. To what degree is what he's talking about just to write a book and get people to buy it?
Yeah, but then they're only talking about it. They're not into it. They're not dusty feet anymore.
Right.
But a lot of
Are they?
intellectuals are, because like they teach in the classroom and then they're involved in community work too. Like, but why will anybody listen to you if you're just anybody?
If you're a dusty-foot without credentials, why would anybody listen to you?
No, but that's a question to be asked later. First,
And
we
there's
probably
also
come
a
to
question we need to ask ourselves individually. The very fact that we feel the need to ask that question, that's a question we need to reflect on ourselves.
I mean, but that's a question that's been reflected on. I mean,
I don't
I
think
mean, first of all, the fact that you were in the PhD program already says something about yourself. So you could consider yourself dusty-foot all along, but you got good shoes on. Period. You know what I mean? So so we could talk about.
But does it have to be one or the other? Can it not be both?
That's the question. And I'm saying that it can't be both, because I think the mere fact that you are.
It can't. You're
No,
saying it
I
can't.
think if you're an academician, then you are already wearing some clean shoes. And so you can take off your shoes and be dusty foot for a period of time.
maybe the word itself is the phrase resistant intellectual is a bad choice of word, one word in particular, and that's intellectual, because resistant intellectual, we presume that the intellectual is somebody who functions and lives and descends from academia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the definition.
That is
of
the
academic.
that is the assumption.
Yeah.
The presumption.
Yeah, but because we came across this word from Giroux. They tagged this thing.
So I think maybe something that would be more appropriate would be something along the lines of maybe a resistant scholar,
resistant
then-
philosopher,
a resistant philosopher, a resistant professor.
professor.
But then they're all
Would
related
professors
to
stem from
academia.
academia?
Yeah, no. I'm saying because if we want to keep it in academia and be somebody who functions in academia who's trying to be resistant.
Are we to intellectuals, scholars, whatever? Are we resistant individuals because, in essence, we want to change society's inequity?
Yes, I agree.
Is that what makes us resistant.
And I think the trust should be on resistant or
Mhm.
resisting rather
Mhm.
than on intellectual,
Right,
because
right. No, no, definitely. So in what ways then are we doing this? In what ways do we want to manifest it? What are some practical things that you do to be resistant to to what you are constructed to be?
I go for protest marches for
Mhm.
stuff I believe in.
Like what?
I like what?
Mm-hmm.
Like the doctor who was under arrest in India on charges of sedition,
Mhm.
Dr. Vinayak Sen, who's a human rights activist. So I have followed that campaign. I have participated in that campaign. I've gone on like
Mm-hmm.
candlelight vigils,
Mhm.
like like protest marches, and that is the way I manifest my knowledge, my understanding of the inequities of the world.
The way I live and conduct myself here is pretty, if not exactly the same, is pretty close to how I would do it in South Africa, to how I would do it around black people, the exact same way as I would do it around white people, and I keep that consistency. Because I want to always entertain those thoughts of an alternative way of living, perceiving, thinking, expressing. I want to keep those constantly alive and a part of me. So the whole, okay, I'm around white people now, I'm going to have to adjust myself to this. Oh, I'm around black people now, I'm going to have to adjust myself to this. No, I don't usually play that. There might be some nuances where, for in the name of being functional, and then after that functioning part, get to a position where, all right, this is me. But that's always the goal. In any context that I am, you're going to see me. And not what
But
that
you,
general surrounding.
as in defined by your national identity or what?
Defined on my lived experience, where I come from,
Okay.
what I've learned, what I've experienced, what I've been taught, what I've decided to subscribe to, and so on.
I think for me, it's just constantly changing this idea of what it's like to be a black man, and I think people have this idea in their head, of what an African man should look like, or what an African, or what a black person should look like, and so usually just challenging people in their definition of what I should be. My conversations with students and where are you from? And I think that usually starts with that kind of conversation. So I constantly tell people I'm from wherever you are from. So they ask me where I'm from, and I said maybe Baltimore, and I asked them where they're from, and they say Baltimore. So in some ways, I want to challenge them constantly that the way they're looking at who I am supposed to be is too narrow-minded. But I think the hardest part for me is really the question of, can you change a system by being in it, Too often I think you give people a pass, somebody says something and you say, that person is just ignorant, They just don't know any better. But challenging people when they have moments like that, things that really, it's unsupported, stereotypes and things like that.
I extend myself for learning and questioning my very dearly held beliefs and values. And making myself stand at a distance from myself to know why I hold those beliefs, and then extending myself for learning about them, about other people, about their beliefs, their values, their norms, but at the same time not being very conscious that I don't give myself away in that process. That to me would be how I resist all also taking into account all the time that I don't resist just for the sake of resisting, just for the sake of not letting go something which I've always dearly held, unthinkingly maybe.
Seen war and some survived the slaughter, son. Kids played cops and robbers and not with a water gun. So yeah, picture me and Big Brother Lee walking through the fire. We came to claim our victory, and I roll with a harder pen.